I stood amidst the opulent setting of Pacific Crest Resort, Santa Barbara, where the sound of waves lapped steadily against the white sand, blending with the radiant sunset. White chairs adorned with purple orchids leaned toward the ocean, the light from glassware on the banquet tables sparkling like tiny gems. My wedding to Claire Bennett, the woman I believed would bring a fresh start, unfolded in a dreamlike scene. But in my worn-out suit, frayed at the shoulders from long days driving a truck, I felt like an outsider among guests clad in designer dresses, wearing jewelry worth more than my yearly rent. I took a sip of cold beer, its bitterness sliding down my throat, trying to maintain a calm facade. The guests' gazes swept over me, as if I were a waiter who'd wandered into the wedding. A woman, with flawless skin and a shimmering silk dress, scanned me from head to toe, pausing at my scuffed shoes I'd tried to polish this morning. Her smirk said it all. I didn't belong here. I gripped the beer bottle tightly, reminding myself this was my day, Claire's, and Emma's my daughter, though her averted gaze from the far corner pierced my heart.
Before diving into the story, comment where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss the latest video.
Claire, in a dazzling wedding gown, approached me, her arm lightly linked with Nathan Reed, her business partner. Claire's smile, perfect as if rehearsed, sent a faint tremor through my heart, but her eyes were cold, calculating. Nathan, in a tailored suit with a smug look, crossed his arms, as if appraising me. James, Claire said, her voice sweet but sharp, pay $50,000 for this luxury, or vanish forever. I blinked, stunned. Emma, standing nearby, cut in with an icy tone. Or you can live alone in a rundown apartment. I took another sip of beer, letting the bitterness ground me, then locked eyes with Claire. A slow smile spread across my lips, not of surrender, but something that made Claire's face pale. You forgot one thing, I whispered, my voice soft like a velvet-clad blade, just loud enough for them to hear. Nathan frowned, while Claire clutched her wine glass, red-painted nails glinting under the lights. They didn't know I'd been preparing for this moment for weeks, that what was coming would unravel their every scheme. The words, "You forgot one thing," slipped from my lips like a velvet-clad blade, nearly drowned by the steady waves of Santa Barbara's shore. The beer bottle in my hand caught the sunset's glow, shimmering as I raised it to my lips, holding Claire and Nathan's gaze. I hadn't meant to say it, not yet. But seeing Claire's perfect face shift from contempt to a flicker of unease, sparked an unexpected satisfaction within me. Just hours earlier, I'd arrived at Pacific Crest Resort alone. The taxi driver, sensing my hesitation, offered an encouraging smile. "Gorgeous place for a wedding," he remarked, helping with my simple duffel bag. "Yeah," I replied, smoothing my suit, the best I owned, bought from a discount store, after months of saving. "I'm getting married." I turned, taking a few steps as if needing air, feeling Claire and Nathan's eyes follow, laden with suspicion and worry. The waves whispered, reminding me of years of sacrifice, sleepless nights, and the betrayal I'd uncovered. In just a few minutes, everything would change, and I wouldn't need to lift a finger to prove they'd been wrong to underestimate me. 20 years ago, my life changed forever in a small San Diego apartment, where dim streetlight filtered through the window, illuminating Emma's pale face, then just 4 years old. My wife Anna had died in a car accident, leaving me with a young daughter and a crushing medical debt. I remember that night, rain tapping the window like my panicked heartbeat, relentless. Emma, clutching her old cloth doll, stood in the hallway, eyes brimming with tears but too scared to cry aloud. Her gaze, full of fear and innocence, stirred something in me. I knew I had to be strong, not just for myself, but for Emma. That night, I packed essentials, Emma's clothes, her doll, papers, and $200 hidden in an old book. All I had left after paying medical bills. I carried Emma, asleep, and left the apartment, boarding the last bus to a rough San Diego neighborhood, where my old friend, Mark Thompson, agreed to let us stay. "Are we going on an adventure, Daddy?" Emma murmured, eyes half closed. "Yeah, sweetheart," I replied, voice steady despite my trembling heart. "The biggest one yet." We moved into a tiny apartment, where the smell of motor oil from my clothes mingled with the musty walls. It had one bedroom, with a fold-out bed I used for the next 7 years. I worked 2 shifts, driving a delivery truck by day, guarding a warehouse by night. Each day was a loop of exhaustion, with brief naps on the couch, before diving back into work. But amid those grueling hours, were golden moments with Emma. I still recall her radiant eyes when she read her first sentence from a used book I bought. The cat sat on the mat. "I did it, Daddy," Emma cheered, eyes shining with pride. "You're the smartest girl in the world," I said, hugging her, my heart swelling with hope. We celebrated small victories with cheap supermarket cupcakes, each carefully divided to last days. When Emma lost her first tooth, got an A at school, or made the spelling bee team, we'd pick a favorite frosting color, blue or pink, and laugh together at our tiny table. "One day, you'll have every chance I never had," I promised Emma, wiping frosting from her cheek. "Will you be there?" she asked, eyes sparkling. "Always," I answered, and I kept that promise through the tough years. When Emma was 10, I opened a savings account for her college, adding spare change. Sometimes just $5 a week, sometimes more when I picked up holiday shifts. The day Emma got her acceptance letter from UC San Diego, she danced around the apartment, letter in hand, shouting, "I got in, Daddy." That night, after she slept, I sat alone on the couch, tears falling silently. Pride mixed with worry about tuition her scholarship couldn't cover. I made a plan the next morning. Besides driving and guarding, I took weekend inventory jobs at a supermarket and extra hours fixing neighbors' cars. Life became a whirlwind of uniforms, bus routes, and short naps between shifts. During Emma's college years, I hid my exhaustion behind a bright smile and dyed hair to cover the growing grays. "You look great, Dad," Emma said during visits, and I sighed in relief that she didn't see the truth. Nights I fell asleep with my shoes on. But then, changes crept in. In her first and second years, Emma brought laundry home, and we'd talk for hours about classes, friends, and her dreams. She proudly introduced me to her roommate, saying, "My dad works harder than anyone I know." But by her third year, Emma came home less, often glued to her phone, texting or scrolling. Once, when her friend, a wealthy girl named Lily, visited our apartment, she glanced around, commenting, "This place, cozy." Emma quickly said, "We're moving soon. Dad's just too busy to find a new place." That lie stung my heart. That night, after Lily left, Emma suggested, maybe I should stay at school on weekends. "The library has better resources for my business classes." I nodded, swallowing the pain. "Whatever helps you succeed, sweetheart," I said, though I knew the distance between us was growing. All those sacrifices, sleepless nights, and drained savings for Emma's college, none of it seemed enough to keep her close. When I stepped away from Claire and Nathan, at the wedding at Pacific Crest Resort, Santa Barbara's sunset still glowed, but my heart was heavy with their threats. The waves seemed to pull me back to memories of sacrificing for Emma, and now, to the woman I thought would bring new light to my life. Claire Bennett. Seeing Claire there, in her dazzling wedding gown, her perfect but cold smile, I couldn't help recalling our first meeting, and how she slowly changed everything. From my trust to my bond with Emma, I met Claire at a small San Diego bar, where I stopped to deliver goods on a scorching day. Me, in my truck driver's uniform, sweaty, just meant to grab a quick drink. Claire sat at the bar, in a simple but striking green dress, her blonde hair gleaming like sunlight. She smiled when I accidentally spilled my water, and instead of laughing, she handed me a napkin. "Long day?" she asked, her voice gentle, her eyes seeming to see through my fatigue. I nodded, surprised by her kindness. "I'm Claire," she said, extending her hand. "James," I replied, shaking it, feeling a warmth I'd forgotten. In the weeks that followed, Claire became an essential part of my life. She shared stories of her past as a marketer, her big dreams, and how she wanted to rebuild her life after setbacks. I told her about Emma, about years of relentless work to give her a better future. Claire listened, nodded, and sometimes held my hand, making me feel seen for the first time in decades. "You're an amazing father," she said, and I believed her. When she mentioned Claire's venture, an online fashion store for professional women, I saw her eyes light up with passion. "This is my chance, James," she said. "But I need startup capital. Banks won't lend to someone like me, with no collateral." I hesitated, but Claire had a way of melting my doubts. She painted a vision of us building a future together, where I'd be not just a father but a husband, a partner. "You've given Emma everything," she said, Now it's time to invest in yourself. In us. I thought of my savings, the money I'd set aside for retirement, days I hoped wouldn't mean 16-hour shifts. But looking into Claire's eyes, I saw a chance to start over. I agreed to transfer nearly all of it, $80,000, into a joint account to launch Claire's venture, on the condition I held a silent 51% stake, as advised by my friend Lisa Morgan. A lawyer, Claire signed the contract, without reading closely, too thrilled with her dream. But with Claire's arrival, Emma began drifting away. Her visits from UC San Diego grew rare. Before she'd bring laundry home, and we'd talk for hours about classes, friends, and her dream of opening her own store. Now she came briefly, eyes glued to her phone, texting Claire or friends. Once when I asked about school, Emma said, "Claire told me to focus on the future, not the past." Those words cut like a knife. But I told myself it was just a phase, that she was growing up. The shift became stark when Claire took Emma to a party with her wealthy friends in La Jolla. Emma returned, her gaze averted. I nodded, swallowing the pain, but couldn't miss how her eyes mirrored Claire's. A mix of shame and distance. I began to suspect Claire wanted not just my money, but to reshape my bond with Emma. My suspicions started with small sharp details, like shards of broken glass. Claire grew secretive, often leaving our shared apartment to meet Nathan, always claiming it was business for Claire's venture. The short phone calls, whispered conversations when she thought I was asleep, and the evasive glances when I asked about the project's progress. All of it made me uneasy. But I convinced myself it was just the stress of an entrepreneur. That Claire was still the woman who held my hand in that San Diego bar, looking at me as if I were her whole world. Until one evening, when everything fell apart, Claire left her tablet on the kitchen counter in our apartment. Its screen lit up with an unlocked string of messages. I'd never snooped through her things, but a gut feeling, or perhaps fear, made me touch the screen. Messages appeared, from Nathan. "James still hasn't suspected anything, has he? Let him think the $50,000 is for the wedding. Then we'll transfer it to the South Bay project." Claire replied, "He's easy to manipulate. Just mention Emma, and he'll do anything. We'll cut him loose after we get the money." Another message from Nathan, "The joint account's already moved $30,000. He's clueless." I stood there, hands trembling, feeling like the floor was caving in. $30,000 from our joint account, money I'd saved from 16-hour shifts, from skipping meals to set aside for Emma, taken by Claire without a word. But what pierced my heart more, was how they mentioned Emma, as if she were a pawn to control me. I scrolled further, finding another thread where Claire instructed Nathan on how to manage James at the wedding. Keep me busy with trivial details, make me feel needed, and ensure I didn't appear in the main photos. One final line, highlighted in yellow. "After the wedding, cutting contact will be easier. He's worth nothing anymore." I stepped back, feeling the air sucked out of me. This wasn't just betrayal, it was a calculated plan to drain me, take everything I had, and discard me like an old tool. I thought of Emma, her averted gaze at the wedding, and wondered how far Claire had swayed her. The pain turned into a cold clarity. I wouldn't let them win. That night, I called Lisa Morgan, an old high school friend, now a lawyer at a small San Diego firm. Lisa had been there through my darkest days, when I struggled with debt after my wife's death. "Lisa," I said when she picked up, my voice low to mask my anger. "I need your help, no questions yet, anything you need." She replied instantly, without hesitation. I briefly explained the messages, Claire's venture, and the contract I'd signed. If I activate my 51% ownership in the company. I asked, "What does that mean?" Lisa paused for a few seconds, then said, "It means you can demand a full audit, freeze assets, review every contract, and even take control of operations if needed." She stopped. "James, what's going on?" I sighed. "I'm making a contingency plan," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "A plan I hope I won't need." The following weeks, Lisa and I worked like shadows. We met at night in her office. After my security shift ended, Lisa's desk was piled with documents. Claire's venture contracts, bank statements, and evidence of unauthorized transfers. Lisa discovered that Nathan had secretly brought in new investors without my consent, intending to dilute my stake after the wedding. They planned to push you out of the company, Lisa said, pushing her glasses up her nose. But they didn't know you still hold control. I asked Mark Thompson, my best friend, to quietly gather more information. Mark, a truck driver like me, had a contact who was an accountant at a small firm. He helped me obtain copies of Claire's venture transactions, confirming that $30,000 had been funneled into Nathan's failed South Bay real estate project. Each new piece of evidence was a stab, but also a bullet for my plan. Lisa drafted legal documents, audit notices, asset freeze orders, and automated emails to investors, ready to launch at the right moment. Meanwhile, I kept up a normal facade with Claire. I nodded when she talked about wedding plans, smiled when she showed off expensive dresses, and even pretended to consider contributing the $50,000. You're amazing, James, Claire said, holding my hand, but her eyes couldn't hide her contempt. I knew she thought I was a dumb truck driver, easy to manipulate, but every time she smiled, I thought of the moment she'd realize she was wrong. The night before the wedding, I met Lisa one last time at her apartment. On the table were manila envelopes, each containing legal documents for the investors, Nathan, and Claire herself. Are you sure, James? Lisa asked, her tone serious. Once we activate, everything will collapse. Claire, Nathan, even your relationship with Emma. It could all change. I looked at a photo of Emma on my phone, taken the day she graduated high school, her smile radiant beside me. I don't want to lose Emma, I said, my voice hoarse. But I can't let them steal what I've sacrificed. I need to do this. For me, and for her. Lisa nodded, placing a hand on my shoulder. Then we'll do it right. When do you want to activate? I took a deep breath, images of Claire and Nathan at the wedding flashing through my mind. I'll know when the time comes, I replied. I left Lisa's apartment, feeling like a soldier heading to battle, not with weapons, but with the truth, stronger than any threat from Claire or Nathan. Santa Barbara's sunset had faded, but the waves at Pacific Crest Resort still lapped steadily, like my heartbeat, calm and certain. My whispered "you forgot one thing" lingered between Claire and Nathan, their eyes following me, full of suspicion and worry. I passed tables adorned with purple orchids, light glinting off glassware under the chandeliers. Guests in designer outfits laughed merrily, unaware of the storm about to hit. I glanced at Emma, my daughter, near the gift table, her eyes wavering, as if sensing unease. I hoped, even faintly, that Emma would understand what I was about to do, that it wasn't just for me, but to shield her from Claire's lies. I paused in a secluded spot by the wooden path to the beach, pulled out my phone, and texted Lisa, "Now's the time. Activate." 3 dots appeared instantly, then a reply, "Got it, documents are being sent. Legal team's ready. You okay?" I texted back, "I'll be fine." I pocketed the phone, took a deep breath, letting the salty sea air and cool breeze fill my chest. This was the moment I'd prepared for, the moment I'd take back what they tried to steal. Seconds later, a symphony of electronic chimes echoed through the reception. Guests' phones buzzed in unison, screens lighting up with emails from Claire's Ventures official address. Lisa and her legal team had crafted these notices, a full company audit, asset freeze and suspension of operations, due to suspected financial fraud. Simultaneously, hotel staff, pre-instructed by Lisa, began delivering manila envelopes to the secret investors Nathan had brought in without my approval. One staff member, with a professional smile, approached Nathan's parents' table, saying, "Mr. and Mrs. Reed, these documents are for you." I watched from the shadows, heart pounding but mind clear. Nathan's father, a silver-haired man, in an expensive suit, opened the envelope, scanned the papers, and his face flushed red. He shot up, napkin falling to the floor, eyes sweeping the party for Nathan. He strode toward his son, standing near the bar, pointing at the documents and roaring, though I couldn't hear the words. Nathan frowned, trying to explain, but his father just shook his head, furious. Claire, a few yards away, sensed something was wrong. She pulled out her phone, her perfect face paling, as she read the email. She spun to Nathan, her voice shrill, "What's happening?" Everyone's getting emails about the company. Nathan, still cornered by his father, muttered something, but his eyes were panicked. I stepped out from the shadows, moving slowly along the party's edge, keeping my composure. When Claire saw me, she rushed over, her wedding gown shimmering under the lights, but her usual confidence was gone. "James, what's happening?" she screamed, voice trembling. "People are getting crazy emails about Claire's venture." "Not crazy," I corrected, voice even. "Accurate. I'm exercising my rights as the 51% owner." Claire blinked, as if she couldn't believe her ears. Nathan appeared beside her, his usual charm replaced by anger. "What did you do?" he growled, keeping his voice low to avoid more attention. I smiled, a smile that made him step back. "I protected my investment," I said. "Did you really think I wouldn't notice your plan to cut me out of the company?" "The secret investors, the funds moved without my consent." Claire shook her head, blonde hair disheveled. "We can explain," she stammered. "It was just temporary, to build capital for Nathan's expansion project." I cut her off, voice still calm. "The South Bay project, where you funneled $30,000 from our joint account without asking me." Nathan glanced at his father, still arguing with another investor, his glare burning. "You don't know what you've just done," Nathan warned, voice shaking. "My family has connections, you can't imagine." "Then why does your dad look like he's ready to disown you?" I asked, nodding toward Mr. Reed, waving the documents like an accusation. "I wonder how he feels, knowing his son used Claire's venture as a personal bank for a failed real estate deal." Claire grabbed my arm, nails digging in, eyes desperate. "James, you have to fix this," she pleaded, tears smearing her perfect makeup. "Everything we built will collapse." "Everything I built," I corrected, voice soft but sharp. "Everything I sacrificed. My savings, my endless workdays, all for you to take and claim as yours." Claire shook her head, tears streaming. "I'm your fiancé, James. You can't do this to me." For a moment, my heart wavered. The instinct to protect, to provide, still strong after years as a father. But then I recalled her messages, Nathan's cold words, and their plan to cut me out of Emma's life. "I already did," I said, voice low but firm. "You showed me how much I'm worth to you." I just believed it. Nathan's phone rang, his father calling from across the room. Claire's phone buzzed incessantly with new emails from Lisa's legal team. Around us, the elegant party began to unravel. Guests clustering, whispering about the documents and emails. Claire tried to grab my arm again. "James, tell me what to do to fix this," she begged. I paused, looking at her, the dazzling gown now a meaningless shell. "You can't," I said simply. "Some things, once broken, stay broken." I turned, walking away with a calm I hadn't felt in years. Hotel staff stepped back, as if sensing I couldn't be stopped. I'd given Claire and Nathan everything I had. Now it was time to take myself back. I stepped out of Pacific Crest Resort's grandeur, leaving behind the guests' murmurs and spreading chaos. Santa Barbara's waves lapped steadily, a reminder that the world kept turning. No matter what had just happened, the sunset had faded, giving way to silvery moonlight, illuminating the white sand, guiding me along the wooden path to the beach. I slipped off my worn-out shoes, holding them in hand, feeling the cool sand beneath my feet. For the first time in years, I felt relieved, as if an invisible burden had been lifted. I found an old wooden bench, nestled between two dunes, hidden from the resort's lights. Sitting down, I let the sea breeze blow through my graying hair, carrying the scent of salt and the tranquility I craved. I pulled out my phone, fingers gliding across the screen, and texted Lisa Morgan. The sand castles collapsed. Finish everything. 3 dots appeared instantly. Then a reply. Got it. Documents sent. Legal teams handling it. You okay? I looked out at the sea, where waves shimmered under the moonlight, and texted back. I'll be fine. I pocketed the phone, rested my hands on the bench, and let my mind drift to what had led me to this moment. I thought of Emma, her averted gaze at the wedding, and wondered if she'd ever understand what I'd just done. Could I win her back, or had I lost her forever? I thought of Claire, the sting of betrayal still lingering, but it no longer made me tremble. Instead, It had forged me into a new man, one unafraid to stand up for himself. I gazed at the sea, where waves sparkled like the dreams I once had. Dreams of a happy family, of Emma proudly calling me dad, of Claire holding my hand through tough days. Those dreams had shattered, but I felt no regret. I said goodbye to the dream of Claire, to a family I once longed for. My only regret was taking so long to realize my own worth. But now, I was free from false promises, from unappreciated sacrifices. Back in San Diego, I started anew, not with bitterness, but with purpose. In the weeks after the wedding, I reflected on what I truly wanted. I'd lived my life, caring for Emma, building her future, but I realized I deserved a dream of my own. The idea came from evenings spent in the garage, fixing my father's old motorcycle, finding peace in the hum of engines and the smell of motor oil. I decided to open a classic car repair shop, not to compete with anyone, but to do what I loved, to create a space for those who valued the worth of old things. Like me. I found a small shop in a quiet corner of San Diego, with a storefront wide enough to display a 1967 Mustang I was restoring. Mark Thompson, my steadfast friend through hard times, helped me clean, repaint the walls, and set up tool racks. "You're doing the right thing, James," Mark said, holding a beer, his smile genuine. "You deserve something for yourself." I nodded, feeling like a new man, no longer defined by sacrifices or betrayal. Each day, I learned more about classic cars, from rebuilding engines to polishing paint. I joined a San Diego Classic Car Club, where men and women, young and old, shared a passion for machines that carried stories of time. They didn't care that I'd been a truck driver or a single dad grappling with debt. They saw a man ready to start over, and that was enough for me to feel I belonged. As for Emma, I hadn't heard from her since the wedding. I left her a message, not pressuring, just saying I'd always be there if she needed me. I hoped someday she'd see I fought, not just to protect myself, but to uphold the values I'd taught her. Honesty, self-respect, and unconditional love. I stepped out front of the shop, looking at the new sign. Carter's Classic Rides. Not an empire, not a flashy dream, but something small, authentic, and mine. San Diego's breeze blew through, carrying the scent of sea and motor oil, like a greeting from the future. I stood there, hands in pockets, smiling, not the bitter smile of vengeance, but the smile of a man who'd found himself again. James Carter's story, a 45-year-old single father in San Diego, reflects the challenges and deep values of life in America today, where financial pressures, betrayed trust, and the journey to rediscover oneself are familiar themes. James, with his truck driving and night security jobs, sacrificed his life for Emma. From selling his motorcycle to pay medical debts, to scraping every penny for her college tuition. Claire and Nathan's betrayal, demanding $50,000 and scheming to manipulate James's assets through Claire's venture, mirrors the reality of trust abused in personal and business relationships in America, where a culture valuing individualism sometimes breeds selfishness. James's action, unleashing a legal plan at Pacific Crest Resort to expose the truth, shows the power of resilience and preparation, a cherished value in American society, where the legal system often protects individual rights. Is opening a classic car shop in the end, with Mark's support, embodies the entrepreneurial spirit and community. Pillars of the American dream. Value your worth, and protect what you've built, but don't let blind trust cloud your vigilance. James trusted Claire, but his initial failure to scrutinize the contract nearly cost him everything. In America, where relationships and business opportunities move fast, learn to set clear boundaries, as James did by working with Lisa to verify his 51% ownership. Invest in genuine relationships, like James with Mark, and always reserve some energy for personal passions, like the car shop, to avoid being defined solely by duties or failures. Finally, believe that, like James on Santa Barbara's beach, you can find freedom and meaning, no matter how painful the past. If James Carter's journey to reclaim his freedom moved you, hit the subscribe button to catch more inspiring stories. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.